having our plan in terms of where we wind up with a lot of customers takes a lot of thought in terms of, when these things go in the ground and when they're all going to be ready to go to the market. And even like going to the market there, this is showing Whipstone Farms. What time do they have to get up in the morning before they go to the market there? Most of the time around 4 a.m., but sometimes earlier, So it's like, I mean, you have to really love what you do, because I mean, it's an incredible amount of work in terms of getting everything ready on display like this at 8 o'clock. Yeah. And, picking the day before and then getting it all prepped is a huge thing. And also, I guess we might think we have a great idea, but I guess one thing that we find in terms of our America anyway, if you think you've got a great idea, what happens? Somebody usually comes along and thinks, oh, maybe they can not do the exact same thing, but something that's even similar. And, even think of Knoxbury Farms. I mean, they kind of started out as a direct marketing kind of enterprise, but then moved to where they got into more of the recreation and the rides and whatnot. But then there's a lot of other competition as well out there for that kind of fun kind of activities. And even though you might think that you're local, you're the only one, what do we know? I mean, people don't buy just certain products. They buy a lot of food from everywhere, right? And, so price can be a factor at some point to where there's substitution. So you have to keep that in mind. I like to use this as an example here when we think of competition. And you might recognize this. This is, corn up here, up by Hopi, up on by Tuba City there. But what's the main product, the main revenue generator product here that gives them competition in terms of not having anyone else being able to come in and substitute? You might miss it.
Seed.
Huh?
Seed.
Well, actually they have a lot of seed here, but that's not the main product. The main revenue generator. You know what the main revenue generator is? It's the pollen from the corn, because the pollen is used for ceremonial purposes and whatnot. And you just can't take corn from the Midwest, the pollen there, and substitute it for your ceremonial purposes, because it has to be, within the certain distances of the valleys and other things. I'm not exactly sure of everything, but it's like you can't just take pollen from anywhere and use that. It has to be the native grown corn here. So yeah, so I know just even little bags, just a little bit of pollen is like, $10, so, so I mean, and I've seen him sell it, but, I mean, if you're looking for pollen, that $10 is cheap compared to going out and trying to raise your corn, right? Because I mean, you might not have the land, you might not have the water, and then being able to get it up, The other thing that's interesting too is some of this corn here never had any rain on it. It was, they irrigate it, flood it like with 2 feet before they plant it, and that clay soil where they plant it in those clusters can almost make corn without ever getting rained on, because they have water from the creek there in the spring, but then that dries up and then they don't have any water. But so their soil there kind of makes it unique in terms of so much clay to hold the water holding capacity that they're able to get a crop almost if it never rains on it again. Okay, let's see, it's not advancing, is it? Okay, so this is an example here. Also, I think if somebody's got quite unique here, This is Emily Heller here. Edible flowers. What a great idea, right? Does anybody know what being vivindo means? So it's just for the good life. Yeah. And anyway, she was one of the ones that was in one of our beginning farmer training programs down in the Florence area. She used to be a journalist, but you know, she like she said, she's found that, you know, the growing, the soil and all that, working in the marketplace is something that she really likes to do. And that's why she's doing it, but she's also wanting to make, or, you know, making a business out of it. In terms of her products are very sought after just because of the uniqueness in terms of being edible on the flowers there. But she's also a very good marketer in terms of a salesman and just getting her product around and everything as well. But it's a great example, I think, of somebody, you're taking something here that you just don't go down to the grocery store and buy, right? You can't go to Walmart and buy edible flowers, can you? You know, so I mean, that's, I think, part of the thing you need to think about in terms of some of the, having a business that's unique and hopefully successful is something that is a little bit different here. This here is another individual that was involved, Tyler Singleton. He got started. He did a micro loan. We'll talk a little bit about that, but basically, you know, he's just going on the thing in terms of local, in terms of he's got, you know, he's down in the Phoenix area, down by Mesa. So he's just on his display here. You can see he's saying, I'm only, you know, 24 miles away. But so he's got different greens and whatnot. He's got chickens and stuff as well too. But that is kind of his forte, is just fresh and local there. I said, we'll talk a little bit more about this here after we get through some of the business planning here on the next talk I do. But basically the idea was that he was able to get a micro loan to get started. It allowed him to buy some capital purchases on some things. He bought a BCS walk behind here, harvester, a flamer there for weeds. He bought some structural things here for his chickens and whatnot. So the loan actually allowed him to kind of get started. Another example here of somebody that is down. Yeah, maybe we'll shut that.
So what was Mallow Farm's competitive advantage like?
Well, okay, so his competitive advantage is basically just being local and fresh, you know.
Oh.
So, you know, I mean, you can see that that's probably not as unique as like the edible flowers, but that is basically what he was you know, allowing him to sell over, I guess, maybe what would be in the grocery store, you know. But yeah, I mean, so you can see, I mean, which one has probably the stronger model or the most inelastic demand, you might say, ability to price them more. You'd say, oh, the edible flowers, and that's true as well. So that's just something to keep in mind. But this is another guy that's Steadfast Farms, Eric Schultz. He's right, you know, not too far off at the end of the runway on Mesa Gateway down there in Gilbert, but he's got a lot of greens that he delivers around. He also has a farm store there. So let me see. So he's got, you know, 2 acres here that are kind of urban production. This is just shows he's got a cooling facility there, washing part. It's kind of all done there. He's does innovations, I guess, you know, all the way. One of the things you find is that labor is very intensive in all of this, because like, you know, he'll have 7 different crops on these beds in 1 year, you know, so that's a lot. This is a cedar that he has right here that they use to feed all these start right down in the row and have them self. So he said that thing has been a huge labor saving tool for him. So a lot of the things like that, I think, to keep in mind, you need to think about how are you going to be able to be competitive on the cost side, because otherwise, if you're just doing each one of those individually by hand planting versus just, you know, having that thing to pull and just plant them evenly and at equally distant spaced, you can't compete against the machine with your own labor, you know. So just be thinking about that. But he, like he said, he has the high tunnel as well. He goes to several of the farmers markets around there, but he also delivers to the restaurants, and he has a farm store that's right there on site as well that customers come into, and they actually it's a self checkout basically. So they check their items and then go through. So it's kind of an interesting. So this just shows like his farm store. It's right there. He's got several coolers with glass behind doors, and he has products not just from his place, but from neighboring farms as well. You know, like those 1 acre jams over there, that pear jam. You know, he doesn't produce that, but he has neighboring producers that he brings in, and then they do that. But basically, everybody just scans their items and then pays for them with a card there on just the honor system, which is kind of interesting as well when you think of being in the city. But he's in a nicer area as well too, right in that area there. They don't have a lot of crime, I don't think, or any homelessness or anything either. But that's just something to keep in mind. But he, on those 2 acres, how much revenue do you think he generates in a year? So he's doing a lot of different things, but just on those 2 acres there, I think this was like about a year and a half ago, during the pandemic as well too. He had about $320,000 that he grossed off those 2 acres. But you know, I mean, it takes a lot to get to where he's at. I mean, he's got several people working for him and everything, you know. So I think he has about typically 5 people there almost all the time working. So, you know, there's a lot of inputs and effort to get to that, you know, that level in terms of that 320,000. But he's getting a pretty good deal in terms of price when he takes those leafy greens and takes them to the restaurants and whatnot, delivering them fresh like that. So we'll try to get through some of the things here on the business plan here. These are 4 key questions you might think about. You know, what need or desire does your service provide? Who are your target customers? How will you reach your customers? And, you know, where are you going to get the resources from to kind of grow everything? So we might think of here on number 1, this is kind of your vision and mission in terms of what need or desire does your product have. Your target customers, you know, what is your marketing plan, the vision, who you're going to reach, your potential customers related to your marketing plan, and where these resources are going to come from are related to your financial plan, your business structure, and all that. This is an outline of a business plan. This is, I'll show you this. The other thing I was going to note too is all these slides that we're showing, at least hopefully, if you come next time, I'll have these all on a flash drive here, all the ones we can get, and then give you on the flash drive as well, so you can have most of these. But I know it does help if you can write here on these going down. That's helpful as well. So the executive summary here, that's something that is meant to be, you know, just that can be condensed in a 1 page to give to people to help to understand what is the key thing of your business strategy. And, you know, to give a quick overview, not necessarily for yourself, but for others that could be involved. And I was going to hand this out here as well, because this is kind of the Eller College and a lot of the terminology more used with business planning today is they kind of call it like a business model canvas, where you kind of list everything on one page here in terms of like, what are your key partners, your activities, the customers, the customer segments, and then you have a cost structure and revenue streams down here as well. So this is called the business model canvas, and you can see you could fill it in something like this, like saying, okay, your key partners could be nonprofits or volunteers. Oftentimes in many businesses, volunteers, you know, are a key component. You know, even with like Steadfast Farm, he uses volunteers every now and then, sometimes on key things. So there's, but you know, for nonprofits in particular, volunteers are huge. The value propositions, you know, what is it you have? Is it year round? Your cost structure, the revenue pricing stream, the channels would be like your outlets, whether it's restaurants, farmers markets, CSAs. And the one thing, your key resources, a lot of you are getting your soil test here, right? That's a key resource that you need to look at in terms of where's your soil at, in terms of being able to grow what, you know. I mean, you might want to grow blueberries here, but what's going to be the problem with growing blueberries in most of the soil that's probably comes in here? Yeah, blueberries need a pH that's very acidic, more like down around 5 or 6 pH. And I would bet my paycheck that all the soils that everybody brings in here are going to be 7 and above, you know, probably at least 7.5, I would probably guess, you know, just because we're in an arid climate. So we tend to have a lot more basic soils in the area we're at. So, you know, what crop you want to grow in is dependent somewhat on the soils. But on the other hand, you might think of it as, well, this is an opportunity, right? Because if you can grow blueberries here, what do you think? Nobody else is going to be growing them, right? I mean, so these blueberries that we have over here, the competition is being shipped in. So you have to think about what it is you can ship out. Okay, can I click? Okay, okay. This is just another kind of fill in here on that business canvas model, and we went way ahead here. Okay. Okay, so our vision here. So this is basically what we envision the business to be in terms of our future contributions to society, the values, growth, and people. I put this example here, Oshi. This is a guy a couple of years ago, he started out here, and he said he raised $50 million to grow the world's sweetest strawberries. So he's getting $50 for just those 6 strawberries there when he was selling. Yeah, I envision this here to where we can click unexpectedly. No, I know Chris is trying to jump in there, but it just doesn't work. So their goal here of this company here, he's trying to take a strawberry that is grown over in Japan under certain conditions, and he's trying to grow them here under vertical farming under those same conditions, stimulate those, and aim to have a strawberry that is basically the most tasty out there. Because basically his analysis was, you go to the grocery store and you get a strawberry, it looks really good, but you taste it, it's kind of watery and it doesn't have a very good taste to it. So the Oshi means delicious in Japanese. It has a creamium kind of texture, and it's basically the strawberry that has a really good lasting taste on there. So it's a creamier texture, flavors are sharp, but more gentle and fragrant than a traditional strawberry. So he started out here selling these for $50, and now he's reduced them down to $20 for these 6, but that's still like $3.33 per berry there. So, his argument is that they flower first, they stay on the plant longer, and that's one of the reasons why they are, their most expensive products. So he was able to sell the $50 and to the high-end New York chefs, but now he's trying to move into a broader market, and they've increased production as well. So that's one of the reasons why, of course, they're dropping the price there to kind of expand on the market there. But next time in December, we're going to have somebody, Miles Lewis. He's going to talk to us about strawberry production in high tunnels. He's actually working on it down at the U of A, so he'll be able to give us a little bit of perspective on what's all involved, especially with vertical production. There's a lot to be said there. To look here at kind of some vision examples here, we might just look here at a couple companies in terms of what their vision is and what companies they are there. So on the first one here, what company is this? Our vision is to be the Earth's most customer-centric company, to build a place where people can come to find and discover anything they might want to buy online. Does that sound like somebody you might know? Right? Probably got a package from them yesterday, if not today, right? So, I mean, their vision here was pretty much achieved when they had this vision several years ago, and they're still following through with that. To where basically, I mean, they started out on Amazon just with books, right? Because the argument was the ubiquitous nature of like books was such that, wow, that would give them a way to get started. But they also had this vision though to grow and do everything, and probably became bigger at that than most people would imagine. Okay, this is Tyson here to be the world's first and foremost choice for protein. Be the global leader in customer value. And that could be almost anybody. It's hard to see, but that's what Caterpillar has for their vision. Okay, bring inspiration and innovation to every athlete in the world. If you have a body, you're an athlete. Who's that? Well, Nike. Yeah. So this is in Safford, Arizona, Our Neighbor's Pantry. They have basically kind of the vision of bringing the local food production right next to the pantry. So they've grown like in the high tunnels there where they have the frost cloth in and everything. And then they right next door, right across the fence is the food pantry. So they have Our Neighbor's Pantry and Our Neighbor's Farm kind of connected there. They're still going there, but I mean, there's a lot of challenges doing that, but they're unique in terms of being able to grow it right there at the farm and then being able to have it right at the pantry right across the way there. So the mission statement is more kind of the what, how, and for whom. It's a nutshell of information about the current business focus, but can also include some of the visionary components as well. Okay, so this is an example here in terms of a mission, in terms of what they do, is engage people through applied research and education to improve lives, families, communities, the environment, and economies in Arizona and beyond. The vision is to be a vital national leader in creating and applying knowledge to help people build thriving, sustainable lives, communities, and economies. So who are we talking about here? Any ideas? I guess we failed. This is U of A Cooperative Extension's mission and then vision there. Okay, I know sometimes a lot of the things that are put out there as the success stories don't have anything to do with research or education, but that's part of our mission here, is to have research and education to improve lives, families, and communities. It's not to provide you know, food or clothing or firewood, or, but, you know, this is our mission here. Not that, you know, providing other things, you know, even food would be a good thing, but our mission is to provide research and education to improve lives, families. Okay, here's a couple examples here. To lead in corporate citizenship through proactive programs, caring for the world family of this company, our teammates, our consumers, and those who provide services to. Who would that be? That's Nike. Okay, so that shows you their mission here is a little bit different than their vision, where their vision was, you know, basically anybody can be an athlete, right? You know. Okay, we are dedicated to producing, marketing trusted quality food products, rewarding and retaining the best people in the food industry. Who might that be? That's Tyson. Okay, we had their vision was to have kind of like the most cheapest source of protein, but this is their mission here. And then here, to make the world's information universally accessible and useful. Who would that be for their mission? Everybody knows that, right? You probably used them 10 times today already, right? Google, right? Okay, so you might just, this is an example here of a sheet you can fill out to think about. And this is, I think, most useful when it's more than just you that's being involved with your operation. You know, so if it's a, you know, even if it's just a husband and wife, or you know, two people, I think it's very good to kind of get this kind of written down here so that everybody's on the same page as to kind of what your vision is and what your mission is. You know, I mean, you know, somebody might say, you know, we want to at least pay all the bills. You know, that's part of the vision as well, in terms of, you know, maybe growing a lot of fresh produce, but you know, providing healthy food, that can all be as well. But if the one party wants to pay all the bills and the other one is willing to subsidize the bills, then that can lead to differences there. And, you know, the goals that we have there are pretty important. When we think of goals, we think of the SMART acronym. So what does the S stand for? Specific, okay, about what you want to accomplish. What else is another attribute of goals on the M? You want to be measurable, right? I mean, if it's not something that we can measure, it's not really a goal, okay? A for achievable. So it needs to be something that can be actually possible. I mean, you know, I might say I want to be a you know, ski jump athlete. You know, well, it's probably not feasible. You know, so relevant. How does the goal tie into the vision and the mission as well? So it should be something that's relevant to both the mission and the vision. And last, the T for being time bound. We can have a goal out there of what we're going to do, but if we don't have at least some kind of a time limit on it, it's not going to mean anything, right? I mean, I've been meaning to clean out the woodshed for how long, right? And if you don't put a time on it, it's not really a goal. You have to say, oh, I'm going to do that by, you know, 2 years from now, or even this weekend, you know. So the SWOT, that's for the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Kind of look at some internal, external, as well as some of the resources that are out there. This is an example here of the internal factors. So strengths could be, you know, what you have inside, could be the production sites, your soil. The weaknesses here could be related to, you know, the weather, limited. It could be the water. You know, your water could be a strength or a weakness. So these are internal things that you have with your own farm. And on the external factors, that's related to things that are kind of outside your control, but do relate. And on the threat side, we can often think of, pests from neighboring farms or something that you don't really have direct control over. But so we put them external, but there may be some things you can do to kind of putting buffers between your farm and their farm coming on. I don't think it's probably a big issue in this area, but you get down into central Arizona, and if you're next to an alfalfa field or a cotton farm, you could have aphids coming off right onto your small, 2 acres of vegetables and just, totally alter the whole situation there. So, going through your situation is something that's a good exercise to do and think about as well. I'm just going to go a little bit through here. I don't know that I have to go through all these, but when it comes to doing a business plan, there is a resource that's put together by a lot of institutions, but it's basically run by the University of Minnesota Ag Plan. And the idea is to provide a template here, and we'll look at what it can provide. But what's ideal about having it online here is that it allows you to share with people, and you can make them as a viewer or an editor so that they can provide changes, and you can fill in just as much as you want. Okay, so you can go to the site here, sign in. You have to create an account, unfortunately. I mean, I don't think you can't do it as a guest. You have to basically register, but it's a free thing. But there's 5 different kinds of templates here to look at, and it allows you to edit again and review. And there's different tips in there as well with regarding different resources over there. So you put in register here. These are the 5 different kind of business plan templates that are up there. There's a small business one. There's a value added ag commodity. There's just a personal plan. So there's an array here of different templates here for you to select from to kind of start. This is all the different areas that are here in terms of under, like, for the value added there. So you can see they have the cover page, the executive summary, all those down. And there's everything, even for like licenses and permits and whatnot. So like if I click on the licenses and permits, it'll bring up some things on resources. If I click on the small business, it'll bring over to Arizona. It brings up for the different states by listing. If I click down on the Arizona small business, this will give me some things here regarding starting a new business. There are things to go through. And they'll also list the additional resources that the Arizona Department of Revenue has as well for on your business. So on the ag commodity side there, very similar pretty much here. There's a few more things with regards to like market trends and whatnot, but a lot of the same things that are put in there. The transitioning to organics, this has some discussion here about it. There's some things here, some samples on direct marketing beef, dairy. So those kind of all go through and try to give you some templates and resources to look at in terms of business planning. These are some URLs that are out there as well that'll kind of help you maybe look at things to consider in terms of starting a business plan. All of these have a good kind of roadmap as well to put together. So you can use some of this information to even help you get started, like on something like on the ag plan, where you can look at everything and update it in kind of real time. Small Farm Center in California has a lot of resources there as well as the Small Business Administration. So I guess just to summarize here, I mean, I think, the cost and the revenues are pretty important here, especially not just from thinking of it even on the hobby lifestyle, but if you wanted to get any kind of a loan or anything, you have to kind of make that commitment up front. Is this just going to be kind of my lifestyle, or do I actually want to make money off of this? You know, so that's one of the key things to kind of think about up front. And once you kind of identify your goals and objectives, and those fit into your mission and vision, that helps you kind of outline and describe how much you want to really make money about it, how much you want it for your own benefit, your own consumption, whatnot. Because I know a lot of small farms, they typically start out just being, you know, home consumption, family consumption, and then they grow sometimes, and then they're like, oh wow, I need to make this into a business, and which is a good thing, but you have to think about it as well in terms of how you're going to support all those costs and grow to kind of that next level there. Also thinking about the timeline, and just also remember that with a business plan, that it's just something to kind of get you started at a point in time, and that you're going to be changing, you know, ongoingly, different things, fine tuning, but hopefully you still have enough structure to kind of keep you going down the right path, so that you don't have to turn around and start over on some things. So any comments or questions, anything on that? That's all I've got. And
Putting our